Yeah. Okay, so just to review this maamar where we got to, the maamar is a Sukkah maamar, and points out that the mitzvah is to sit in the Sukkah. Sitting represents to be settled, to ingest, to internalize. That's what sitting means. A Sukkah is something that is a surrounding light, something that's beyond. They represent, sitting and Sukkah represent two opposite divine energies. There's the makif and the pinimi. Makif means that which surrounds, that which is beyond the grasp. Pinimi means that which you have internalized and grasped. And so to sit in the Sukkah seems to be quite contradictory. How can you sit in the Sukkah? How can you internalize that which is beyond? So to explain that, the Rebbe said that in Avodas Hashem, in our service of Hashem, makif and pinimi, the surrounding light and the internalized light, represent emunah and hasaga, faith and understanding. Emunah is a makif. The experience of emunah is that you know it's there, you sense it's there, but you don't understand it. You can't explain it. It's not something that is put into words. It's beyond your grasp. So it surrounds you. Whereas understanding means you've internalized it. It's settled in your mind. You have grasped it, absorbed it, you can put it into words, it's understood. You surround it, not it surrounds you. You've got it. Like the word grasp. To grasp something means that you can feel its parameters. You can reach around it. So intellectually, to grasp something means that you have captured it. It's become a part of your mind. Whereas emunah is that which is beyond grasp. You can't grasp it. It's higher than the vessels of your intellect can contain. So in emunah and hasaga, these are not two opposite things that don't have any correlation. They actually work together. There's a level where emunah and hasaga connect, and that is that our connection with Hashem starts with emunah and then develops to hasaga. That at first you can only have emunah in Hashem, but as you develop, your mind expands, you start to understand parts of Hashem. There's aspects of the divine that become logical, understandable, that you can actually grasp. That doesn't mean that you don't have emunah anymore. All it means is your emunah then goes to higher things. That there's greater, higher realities within the divine that are still beyond you. You've just grasped more. So your understanding of Hashem when you were 5 years old is very different to the understanding you had when you're 25, which is then again different to when you're 45, because your mind expands, you have a more mature understanding. So that which was emunah when you were a kid becomes hasaga when you're older. And your emunah then shifts to a higher thing, to higher parts or greater aspects of the divine. And that continues, that process continues as your hasaga expands, your emunah goes higher. And this is an endless thing because Hashem is infinite, so therefore no matter how much you've understood about Him, there's infinite you don't understand. And so there's always room for infinite emunah, even as your hasaga develops. So that's what we were discussing, and we're in the middle of on page Kuf Nun Test, in the middle of base. This is where we got to. There's a line that begins with the word nimshach. It's almost exactly halfway down the page, nimshach. And at the end of that line, there's a new sentence. V'al derech zeh, there's an abbreviation. Al derech zehu b'meshech kol yimei chayav. This process continues for your entire lifetime. The higher you go in your avodas Hashem and in your grasping of Hashem, that which originally was grasped by you through emunah, that you had just emunah in it, that comes drawn down into your understanding. You've got that now. You don't need emunah for that. It's not beyond you. It's now within your mind. You can understand that part of Hashem. And your emunah is then shifted to a higher thing. Which in fact, this experience happened with the Jewish people as a whole. Originally the Jewish people were a part of the nations of the world. In other words, there was not a distinct entity, there was just many nations, and the Jewish people among them. Meaning, originally, before the giving of the Torah, the emunah that the Jewish people had was similar to the emunah available to any nation, and that is that Hashem's power is in His creation. He is the source of creation. But through the giving of the Torah, the Jewish people were elevated that our emunah is not that Hashem created the world. For that you don't need emunah, that's a fact. Our emunah is in Sover Klalmin, is in the light of Hashem that is beyond all worlds. As it's explained in Chassidus, here it quotes in the Siddur, the Alter Rebbe Siddur, the section on Pesach, it has this idea, and it's several places in Chassidus it explains that for the Jewish people, emunah is not that Hashem exists. For that you don't need emunah. Hashem's existence is a fact that is palpable, it's provable, it's observable. Just like you're alive, your body is alive, and the life of your body doesn't come from your body, it comes from the soul. So too the world is living, is existing, is functioning. It doesn't come from it comes from something higher. The idea that there's a creator to the world is a logical conclusion. You don't need emunah for that. That's not faith-based. That's just like, well, obviously. The fact that some people deny that means they're being illogical. They might be very intelligent, but they're being illogical. To say that there's no creator of the world, it's a silly thought. Like, you're being silly now. Think straight, and of course there's the creator. For that you don't need emunah. What do you need emunah for? Emunah is that Hashem is all that exists. That nothing else exists. That He exists, that's a provable fact. That only He exists and nothing else exists. Okay? I'll take that one on faith, because I sort of feel like there's other stuff in the world that exists. It's not separate from Hashem, it's just Hashem. Hashem is everything. For that you need emunah. We can't understand that.
I remember hearing once there's even a higher level of emunah where you have to believe that you exist.
Okay, well that could be the Rebbe in certain maamarim asked the question: how do we know the world exists? From their perspective, from the perspective of a tzaddik, Hashem's existence is obvious, but our existence needs to be proved.
It's only because it says it in the Torah.
And yeah, the proof is it says in Torah, Bereshit bara Elokim. Hashem said He created the world, so it must be a world. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very good. So just like the Jewish people graduated in our emunah as a whole, that originally we were part of all the nations of the world, and all the nations of the world, their faith in God is that He really did create the world. He's the source of existence. But then when we received the Torah, we were upgraded to a high level of emunah. That Hashem's existence is obvious. It's that the sovev, the light that's beyond everything, that only exists without anything else, that level we have to have emunah in. So that happened to us in a holistic way, but in specific way, every day throughout our lives, we're processing higher levels of emunah becoming hasaga, and therefore emunah is being pushed to a higher level. Va'ad, after the brackets, the fourth last line of the paragraph, Ad she'omer Razal, to the point where our sages say a fascinating statement in the Medrash. Yamin l'chol davar ze Moshe Rabbeinu. This maamar Chazal is misquoted here. I have a feeling the Rebbe misquoted it, and you'll see why. The Medrash says, it quotes a pasuk. The pasuk says, Pesi yamin l'chol davar. A fool believes in everything. A fool believes everything. Is gullible. It believes everything. A fool. The Medrash says, what's that verse referring to? Zeh Moshe Rabbeinu. It's referring to Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, the Rebbe here quoted that maamar Chazal without leaving the word fool out. Yamin l'chol davar. One who believes in everything, that's Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, but the original says a fool. Maybe the Rebbe didn't want to spell it out the way the Medrash does. Or maybe it's a printing error, I don't know. But Bashgacha brought this, it doesn't say Pesi Yamin l'chol davar, but the original says a fool believes everything, that's Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the Medrash saying? Sounds a little bit insulting. Not really what we'd expect the Medrash to say about Moshe Rabbeinu. So what does it mean? Hagam sheMoshe hayu b'tachlis shleimus hachachma. Even though Moshe Rabbeinu was at the pinnacle of human wisdom, he was the highest level you could possibly reach in hasaga, in understanding. No matter how high you've reached in understanding, there are still levels that are beyond your understanding and you can only grasp through emunah. In fact, on the contrary, the deeper your grasp is, the more intelligent, the higher level you reach, the more you realize, the more you appreciate what is beyond your understanding. Like it says, the famous saying, which is brought in many of the Jewish philosophers, the point of knowledge is to know that we don't know. So, who was the greatest as far as understanding Hashem? Who reached the highest level of understanding Hashem? Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore, who knew how little he knew best? Moshe Rabbeinu. So who's the best to describe as a fool? Who really realized he's a fool? We go around thinking we're pretty smart. Moshe Rabbeinu knew we don't know anything.
Yeah.
You think you know, you don't even know what you don't know.
What about Shlomo?
But Moshe Rabbeinu does. So it says he was Chacham Mikol Adam. Yeah. So he was also. But there was, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu did understand Paraduma, which Shlomo Melech didn't. So he had a bit of an edge on him.
But it is all relative.
Yeah.
So he was bigger fool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing thought. Who really understands the lack of understanding? Only Moshe Rabbeinu really understood it. Like we don't even have any clue what we don't know. The higher you've gone, the more you've understood, the more you appreciate what's beyond. So when somebody who has not learned Chassid, has not studied the wisdom, the godly wisdom, talks about the infinity of Hashem, what they're talking about, how Hashem is so beyond and so not understandable. What they're talking about can't compare to somebody who has delved into that wisdom and realized, you really don't know what you don't know. Because when you've explored how far the human mind can go, and you realize that even that leaves infinite room for emunah, then you really appreciate how little we know. So while for an undeveloped mind, the fact that Hashem is everywhere is just, that's amazing. How do you get your mind around that? Hashem is everywhere? That's nothing. Hashem's beyond everywhere. Being everywhere is a limitation. Hashem is beyond being everywhere. Everywhere is also a place. He's nowhere and everywhere.
And is everything.
And
And nothing either.
In other words, the greater your understanding, the more you realize you don't understand, and the more you appreciate what's beyond. And that's Tachlis Hayidiyah, Shaloi Nadacha. The point of knowing is to know what you don't know, to appreciate what you really don't know.
But what does it mean that he believed everything?
So he realized that you need a munah. Like, what we think is, we're not Moshe Rabbeinu, so we think, look, I know quite a lot. I have quite a lot of knowledge, and then there's also a munah beyond that. So I have a bit of a munah and a bit of a saga. Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, my knowledge is so insignificant, I believe everything. Because my knowledge is so tiny, it's so insignificant compared to what you need a munah for. So he's it's like I believe everything. My knowledge is insignificant. Whereas we are blessed with the ignorance to think that our knowledge is not bad. My knowledge gets me somewhere. Just for the rest, I need a munah. Whereas for Moshe Rabbeinu, he knew how little his knowledge really was. Therefore, it's like all the munah. So that's the process. The process is hasaga that leads to emunah on a higher level. So you start with emunah. You can only start with emunah. As you mature, you have more hasaga, understanding. That understanding just pushes the emunah to a higher place. Your hasaga encroaches on the space of the emunah. What you had emunah, now you have hasaga for, but the emunah doesn't run out, it doesn't get smaller, it's still infinite. And in fact, the greater your hasaga, the more you appreciate what is beyond. What is beyond your hasaga, what is in emunah. So Moshe Rabbeinu is the fool that believes everything. Whereas we are the chachamim. Okay, so Gimel. Look at Gimel. The truth is, this pattern is a daily thing that in our service of Hashem appears in the pattern of the day. There's a passage that says that a person should go out to do his work and his avodah until the evening. Which sounds like, you get up in the morning, go out to do your work, and you keep going until the evening. Nice. What are you trying to tell me? What that means is, at the beginning of the day, avodah begins with emunah. We start serving Hashem with emunah. Moda ani Rabbi b'nesecha. The first thing you do is you say Moda ani lefanecha. Moda ani means. What does Moda ani mean?
I acknowledge.
Yeah, I acknowledge. I give thanks. I submit. Moda doesn't just mean to thank. I mean, the meaning of thank is to submit to you. Moda ani lefanecha. I admit that you're right, not me. That Hashem, your reality is the true reality, not the way I see things. Which is a state of emunah. That even though I wake up, I feel it's me. I woke up. It's my body, my life. I did it. But Moda, I admit that I'm wrong. That you have it right. To be Moda also means to admit.
So you start the day by admitting you're wrong.
That's
It's
right.
not really a good start.
It's a very good start. Especially if you're a husband.
Admitting you're wrong.
Oh, no. No.
So the first thing you say is, I know I get it wrong and you got it right. I know your version is true and I don't know what I'm doing. That's emunah. It's a statement of emunah. I trust in you. I believe in you. You've got it right. I submit to you. I submit myself to you. That's the beginning of the day. That's what Moda Ani is. Also, we start the morning service davening with Hodul Hashem. Again, Hodu means admit to Him. He's got it right. He knows what He's doing. He's the truth. Not the way you perceive it, but the way it really is, which is Hashem's way. Hodah bilvad, which is just an act of submission. It's negating your mind in the morning. It's not saying, I've got it figured out. I don't have it figured out. You got it right. You're the truth. That's the beginning. But that's not where it ends. Then there is a contemplation, a meditation, an intellectual experience, which is called Sukkah de Zimra. Sukkah de Zimra is going through the various levels of the divine power within the world, contemplating it, and trying to appreciate a closeness with it, understanding of it. Not just saying, look, I don't know what's going on, you've got it. That's Moda Ani. But then it's contemplating the fact that Hashem is in the world, on all levels. And Sukkah de Zimra goes through how everything in the world is a divine power. That's a contemplation. That's a mind exercise. And then Mufrat B'Brichas Krishma, and certainly in the blessings of the Shema and the Shema itself, all of that is a contemplation. Shema is not a recital. It's not just you're saying a statement. It's a contemplation of the oneness of Hashem. You're supposed to extend the word Echad and contemplate that Hashem fills existence. Contemplation means grasping it, like feeling it in your mind. So it's not just a negation of myself. Look, I don't know what's going on, but you're the boss. It's I'm trying to contemplate what is going on and have an intellectual relationship with you. That's his bonus. That's hasaga, understanding, letting it sink in. So while the davening begins with Hodul Hashem Kitov, but it then goes into Sukkah de Zimra, which is a contemplation, the Shema and its blessings, which is a contemplation, a mindful exercise, an awareness of Hashem. But then, then after Shema, you reach Shemona Esrei, which is Bittul again. Shemona Esrei is where you are silent and standing before Hashem, completely bottled. Shu Bittul B'tachlis, and that's the higher level of Bittul. K'may Bittul de Emunah, it's the Bittul of Emunah, which Emunah is nullification to Hashem, surrendering to Hashem. But Ella, brackets. El Shamuna Zu hi Amunah shel Achri Hasaga. But this is a munah that comes after grasping. There's a munah that comes before intellect, that is lower than intellect, that denies intellect. And then there's a munah that includes and surpasses intellect. That I've understood what I can, but I know that there's much beyond that. So I submit my intellect to a munah. The first one is negating intellect. The second one is surpassing intellect. First, there's a munah that's below intellect. I don't know what's going on, I just believe. And then, after you do know what's going on, you still believe, because whatever you know is limited, and a munah takes up where understanding leaves off. So that's a higher level of a munah. That's what Shemona Esrei is. Now, the Bekoich Kol Zeh, Yotza L'Avodah. With the power of all this, you can go out to your Avodah Adei Arev, to the Avodah until the evening. When you started the day like this, first with Emunah that negates intellect, Modani, then Sukkah Zimra Shema, the intellectual contemplation of Hashem, Hasaga, and then concluding with again Shemona Esrei, which is Emunah again, but Emunah after the Hasaga, higher than Hasaga. You can then go out to your day and work until the evening. What does that mean? Avodah Adei Arev, your Avodah is Adei Arev till the evening. She'osa Avodah b'meshech kol yom, that you engage in the serving of Hashem for the entire day, Adei Arev, until the evening. Now, until the evening has two interpretations. There's two ways of explaining this. Kipirush HaPashut, the Adei Arev. One is the simple explanation, until it gets dark. That you serve Hashem right up until the darkness, into the darkness. Like you're serving Hashem even as it gets dark. You've spent the entire day serving Hashem. But the word Arev, which means evening, darkness, can also be Arvus, Arevus, Umasikus, which means pleasantness, sweetness. Arev can mean darkness, it can also mean pleasant, sweet. So what does that mean? Ta'al Yidei she'oisek b'meshech kol hayom b'inyanei ha'olam hazeh gashmi she'ein tachton lamata memenu. Because during the day, after you've davened, you then go to work, and you then get involved in the material, physical world, the lowly physical world that there's nothing lower than it. This is the lowest world there is. Shemitzad atzmam hem b'chinas erev v'choshech. The world, on its own, its definition is darkness. Erev, evening, darkness. That's what this world is. Darkness meaning there's a lack of godly light in this world. That's the definition of this world. That's the definition of Gashmias. But because you started the day davening, and you took the flavor of davening into everything you did during the day, so even though you're involved with Erev, darkness, Gashmias, umahakram l'kedusha, you're transforming that darkness into holiness. You're imbuing it with a holy energy. That brings the greatest pleasure and sweetness to Hashem. Because transforming something that was bitter into sweet is even sweeter than something was sweet all along. Like the principle it says in Tanya, that transforming darkness into light is a greater light than something that was light all the way along. Taking something that was bitter and making it sweet is even more sweet than something that was always sweet. It has a more dramatic sweetness. So too, taking the physical world and transforming it into a spiritual entity, that there's nothing more sweet than that. So the Avodah Adei Arev has two meanings. You serve Hashem Adei Arev till the night, which means you go into the night, the darkness of the world. So it doesn't really mean nighttime, it means your whole day is night, because you're involved with Gashmias. But Adei Arev, but you're doing it in a way to the point where it becomes sweet, where the Gashmias of the world actually becomes sweet to Hashem, because you're transforming it. You're not involved in it for its sake, you're involved in it for a higher sake, for a higher purpose. And the power to do that came from Shachris in the morning. When you daven in the morning, you aligned yourself with this Emunah and Asaga, and then Emunah even higher than that. So that allows you to go through the day without getting lost in the physicality of the day. So let's just finish the paragraph. And so, therefore, this pasuk can be understood in its very literal sense, that a person goes out to their work and to what they need to do during the day. That what you need to do during the day is done with completeness, in the right way. Because you have a heavenly help, that because you plugged into Hashem in the morning, so therefore whatever you need to do during the day will be done the correct way and with the correct intent, because you have divine assistance from the morning, from the Shachris.
No, I just wanted to ask that earlier we said we start off davening with Haidul Hashem, but before that we're meant to learn, which is like a Hasaga thing. Isn't that like a...
First is Modani. You
Yeah.
can't do anything before Modani. So first you have to have a Munah. Then you can have a saga, but that's a saga that prepares you for the davening. That's, like I said before, we're constantly flipping from one to the other. But it always has to start with a Munah. Then you can go to a saga. Then you can go to a higher Munah, which then goes to a higher saga and a higher...
Right.
So with this pattern, with this rhythm of Emunah, Hasaga, Emunah, we can understand Sukkahs. Look at Dalit. V'zeu b'Sukkah station. That's what it means that you have to sit in the Sukkah. Which we asked, how can you sit in the Sukkah? Sukkah is something that is beyond, something that is a surrounding, encompassing light. Sitting is to dwell, to internalize, to allow it to become inward. Sukkah is something that's beyond. It can't be internalized. By definition, Sukkah is a makif, which is beyond. Sitting is internalizing. How do you sit in a Sukkah? Spiritually speaking. The betchila tzarich li is inyan a Sukkah. Okay, this is what it means. First, you have to have a Sukkah. That's the first thing. You have to build a Sukkah. That's to be a Sukkah. You haven't sat in it yet. There just needs to be one, which is bechinas makif. You have to start with emunah, makif, that which is beyond. You've got a Sukkah. So that itself, just the making the makif, creating that makif of Sukkah, even before you fulfilled the mitzvah of sitting in the Sukkah, and certainly before you've internalized the Sukkah experience, it's a very high thing, it's a very high spiritual level. From the fact that the Torah says, make for yourself the festival of Sukkot, which tells us that there's actually a mitzvah to build the Sukkah. The mitzvah is not just to sit in the Sukkah on Sukkot, you have to actually make a Sukkah. Which in halacha, what that means is that if you found a Sukkah, it's not good enough. You have to make a Sukkah. So if, let's say, animals have made a little home for themselves, and it actually fits the laws of a Sukkah. It's got the right size, and it's got the right thing on top. It was a bunch of otters that made it, or possums, or whatever, but that actually fulfills the laws of Sukkah. That's not a Sukkah, because you have to make a Sukkah, and that was made by beings that are not obligated. So that's not a Sukkah. You have to actually make a Sukkah. There's a mitzvah to make a Sukkah. We don't make a bracha on making the Sukkah, because the mitzvah is not complete until you dwell in the Sukkah. So that's why you don't make a bracha on it. But you have to actually make a Sukkah. The fact that there's a mitzvah to make a Sukkah, in the spiritual realm, what that means is that the first thing is to create a makif, a relationship with Hashem that is beyond you, which is emunah. You have to start with emunah. Before you've even sat in the Sukkah, it's not even Sukkahs yet, you have to make a Sukkah. You have to start off by creating a makif relationship with Hashem, which is emunah. Moidani. That's how you have to start. This particularly, to see the power of just the Sukkah itself, just the building, the structure of the Sukkah, before you've sat in it. You haven't done the mitzvah of eating in the Sukkah or sitting in the Sukkah, but you've just got a Sukkah. To show how powerful that is, this is illustrated by what is explained in the maamarim of the Rebbe Marash, whose Yartzeit this maamar was said on. Sheschach HaSukkah, that the schach, the branches that cover the Sukkah, Shehu Ikra Sukkah, which by the way is the main definition of what a sukkah is. A sukkah is defined by the schach, not by the walls. The walls can be made out of anything. The schach is what is specific to a sukkah. The sukkah nikras al shem schach. In fact, the word sukkah is a version of the word schach, which means the shade, the cover on top. So the schach of the sukkah, it says in the Rebbe Marash's maamarim, Nase ma'onan haketoris d'Yom Kippurim, is created by the smoke that came out of the incense burnt on Yom Kippur. That's where the schach comes from. Spiritually speaking, that the smoke that rose from the ketores that was brought in Yom Kippur by the Kohen Gadol, that smoke becomes the schach of the sukkah.
Where does it say that?
The Rebbe Marash.
But that has nothing to do with Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is what the whole mitzvah is based on.
Right. Which is why Sukkah is not a Pesach time. It's after Yom Kippur.
Right.
Because Sukkah also connects to Tishrei. And so the Nachas Ruach, the divine pleasure that is created through the Avodah of Yom Kippur, covers us, envelops us on Sukkot. It means that your Yom Kippur Avodah, the tshuva that's done on Yom Kippur, the connection of our soul with Hashem that is created on Yom Kippur, exudes itself, continues and becomes the sukkah. The protection, the holiness, the makif of the sukkah is an extension of Yom Kippur. So it's not talking about literally that smoke coming from the Beis Hamikdash turns into a branch that's on top of you. It's talking about the energy of Yom Kippur. The smoke that rises from Yom Kippur, from your avoid of Yom Kippur, meaning the spiritual
The work, the input.
Yeah. The relationship that's created on Yom Kippur becomes the divine canopy of the sukkah.
That's what we put in.
Yeah, and that's the emunah, the makif, the divine surrounding. The emunah for the entire year starts with Yom Kippur. The smoke of Yom Kippur becomes the schach of the sukkah. The makif, the emunah, that is the beginning of the avodah of the new year.
The makif, the emunah after the hasad.
Well, this is the beginning. Sukkah is a new beginning. So
Let's say start.
it's the first.
By this starting our emunah to
But
already on.
it's
Rosh
already been
Hashanah.
prepared on Yom Kippur. We'll see Rosh Hashanah as well. But at the moment, Yom Kippur, the smoke of Yom Kippur is the schach of the sukkah, is the emunah, the new emunah.
Does Yom Kippur specifically relate to Makif?
No, it all relates to emunah. We end Yom Kippur with Shema Yisrael with a statement of emunah, Mesiras Nefesh, which is beyond going out of our kelim. That's what Yom Kippur is.
So now we don't have the smoke right now. So
We
what-
do. The avodah is still the same. We don't have the literal smoke, but the literal smoke we didn't need in the first place. It's the
That's the avoiding.
Yeah. And not only that, but the schach is not just an extension of Yom Kippur, but it is also an extension of Rosh Hashanah. In other words, this is also, we start really on Rosh Hashanah, not just Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah we started. Why? Because it says, V'yodua, Gam, the schach begematria meya. The word schach has a numerical value of 100. Samach is 60, chaf, 2020. 60, 20 is 100. Keneged meya kolis the shofar. This corresponds to the 100 blasts of the shofar. Shenog Yisrael, the minig Yisrael Torah, litkoi b'Rosh Hashanah. Our minig is to blow 100 blasts on Yom Kippur, on Rosh Hashanah, of the shofar. The 100 blasts of the shofar, which is also an expression of emunah, the deep connection of our soul with Hashem, that becomes also the schach of the sukkah. So starting with the shofar, and then with the ketores, and then it's expressed in the schach that we bask beneath. But it's even more specific than that. The gam protei hakolos merumazim ba'osis the schach. In fact, the specific noises of the shofar are hinted at in the word schach. Because samach kolos the tkiya, there are 60 tkiya blasts. Chaf kolos the shvarim, there are 20 shvarim. B'chavta trua and 20 truas. Because Tkiya is at the beginning and end of each group, and then Shvarim and Trua are done together and then separately. So there's 3 times the amount of Tkiyas as there is of either Shvarim or Trua. So Schach is 60, 20, 20. Trua, Tkiya, Trua, Shvarim. Each one.
Did we bring animal offerings on Yom Kippur? We did.
Oh,
So then why the Keteris and not the
That
animal
was the avoda, the specific avoda of Yom Kippur was the Keteris that was done Lifnim, Kohen Gadol. That was like the Holy of Holies.
That was...
So what does this mean? That Schach is an expression of the 100 blasts of the shofar, the 60, the 20, the 20. V'hanu sham shacha b'Rosh Hashanah, the divine energy that's drawn down on Rosh Hashanah, which is drawn down through the 100 blasts of the shofar, it's brought down, but it's brought down in a hidden way. Like we learned in the previous maamar, when the moon is hidden on Rosh Hashanah, what it means is that it's drawn down on Rosh Hashanah, but it's drawn down, but it's not yet grasped. It's not just yet apparent. It's not down here yet. It's revealed on Sukkah. So the avodah of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, what's drawn down, the divine energy that's drawn down, is not revealed until Sukkot. So the 100 blasts of the shofar draws down a divine energy, but there's a difference between drawing something down and revealing it. Drawing down means it's here, but you might not see it. Revealing it means it's in front of you, it's right there. So blowing the shofar draws down the energy. Sitting in the sukkah is where it's revealed. So the divine closeness that's created through the shofar and through the avodah of Yom Kippur, that closeness is then expressed in Sukkot. Sukkot is the manifestation of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in a revealed way. And the pasuk says, "B'keser liyom chagenu," that from hiddenness on Rosh Hashanah it goes to Yom Chagenu, the day of our festival, which is Sukkot. It's hidden on Rosh Hashanah. It's revealed in Sukkot. That's why Sukkot is the time of joy, because joy is that release where everything becomes revealed. We actually can celebrate. It's down. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are serious days. We're being mamshich on Sukkot. We're celebrating the presence of that light.
And the schach is an integral part of all of
Is
it.
the definition of the sukkah. Yeah. So we're basking in the shade of the schach. That's the makif. That's the divine energy that's surrounding us. So elsewhere the Rebbe explains that's why the schach has to have cracks in it, seeing stars between all that. That's explained elsewhere. But the schach is the main thing.
So you really can't go into the sukkah if you didn't have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
You can, but it's not.
Like it has to follow Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Like it
Yeah.
can't
You can't
be
just
an
decide that.
isolated.
Right. Which is why Sukkot is not after Pesach.
Right.
Now, the chol zeh hu meilus hamakif to sukkah k'moshu b'atzal atzmei. Everything we've described here is the description of the sukkah on its own. We're not yet talking about the mitzvah of sitting and dwelling and internal. Just the sukkah, the building of the sukkah, the schach that you put on the sukkah is an expression of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. The sukkah by itself. But v'achtach tzarich liyis b'sukkos teishvu. Then you have to sit in the sukkah. You've built the sukkah, you've created it. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur generated the energy, and you've now got the energy of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in your sukkah, symbolically speaking, which means that the amunah, that at the beginning of the year, the recommitment to Hashem, which is based on amunah, like you wake up in the morning, you say Modani, you wake up a new year, you say Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and you have a sukkah. That's all amunah. You haven't sat in the sukkah yet. You just got it. You've got the amunah. Then it's b'sukkos teishvu. Now you have to sit in the sukkah, which means la hamshich hamakif to sukkah b'syashvus ub'pnimius. You have to draw down the amunah that it has to be internalized by you now. You have to actually settle it within you. Sitting means to settle, to allow it to sink in. So you drew it down on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. It was revealed on Sukkot just by having a sukkah. But then you have to sit in the sukkah, which means you have to draw it down within you and internalize it. The amunah has to become a saga. It has to become your conscious reality. Not just something that surrounds you, but something that permeates you internally. This is a 7-day process. For 7 days you have to sit in the sukkah, because 7 corresponds to the full cycle of the week, all 7 layers of emotion. It has to be completely internalized within you. So it's a week-long thing. Unlike Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, which is done in a day. Even Rosh Hashanah is considered a long day, two days which are really one long day. But Sukkah is a 7-day process of internalization, bringing it down into your reality. And then, after you've internalized for 7 days, you have Shmini Atzeres. What's Shmini Atzeres? Sha'makif nichas b'pnimis v'atzeres, v'nimshach makif elyon yoser. Atzeres, the word Atzeres means to absorb, to stay back, to hold back. So Shmini Atzeres means you absorb fully the sukkah now. You've sat in the sukkah, for 7 days, so now it's completely yours. And now you're ready for a new makif, for a new level, higher level of makif, of emunah, of that which is beyond. And that's why it's the 8th day, because the number 8 always represents the makif, that which is beyond 7, beyond nature, beyond the system. That's what that number 8 means. So Shmini Atzeres, which is, by the way, the weirdest name of any festival, that nobody actually has a clue what that means. Ask, what does Shmini Atzeres mean?
Eighth day of stopping.
Yeah, which is like a great translation. It sounds like a great party, that one. And in the Torah it doesn't even say that. It says, B'yom HaShmini, on the 8th day, Atzeres Tiyalachem, you should have a yontif. So, Shmini, comma, Atzeres. so it's Shmini, Atzeres today. It's not even a word.
Parting with Hashem.
Without Chassidus, I don't know how anyone understands what Shmini Atzeres means. It's a mysterious yontif. I once saw in a humorous book that listed the festivals that no one really knows what they're about. One of them is Shmini Atzeres. I'm not really sure why we do it. So with Chassidus, you do understand it, that Shmini Atzeres, this is the 8th day after absorbing. You've absorbed the pnimius, the emunah of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur for 7 days. So now you're ready for Shmini, which is the 8th day that is beyond that again. You've absorbed it, so now you're ready to go beyond what you've absorbed, to a higher level of emunah. So there's the emunah that came as an introduction, then there's the hasaga, the grasping of that emunah, and then there's a new emunah that's even higher. Exactly like we said before with Moda'ani in the morning, and then Sukkah Zimra Shema, which is internalizing, and then Shemona Esrei, which is a higher level of emunah. You start with emunah, you end with emunah, but it's not the same. It's emunah that is on a higher level because it had grasping in between. You internalized the first emunah, so you're now ready for a higher level of emunah, which is what Shmini Atzeres is. And so then it comes down a whole new level of emunah, and therefore you don't need to be in the sukkah anymore. You've internalized the sukkah, so you got that already. That's it. That's in you. You don't have to be in it. It's in you. Shmini Atzeres is higher than that. Well, for us, we sit in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres, we don't make a bracha, because you don't need the mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah anymore. You can sit there without the bracha. You've internalized it.
For you, do you mean because you've got 2 days in Israel?
Yeah.
But you
So
don't
why we
say
don't
that
say-
Hashem. Sorry, go ahead.
So why we don't say goodbye to the sukkah, because
Yeah, because you don't say goodbye with it. It's in you now. Like it should say goodbye to you. Like the physical sukkah. Like we don't need it anymore because it's in you.
some people have the minhag of saying
No,
goodbye to
yes.
the sukkah.
That's why I'm questioning it the other way. I've never heard the other.
Chabad minhag is not to say the goodbye to the sukkah.
You don't say that pasuk that's in
No, there's a little prayer or something. We won't farewell the sukkah. Just like on at the seder, we don't say Chasal Siddur Pesach. We've completed the seder of Pesach. We don't say that. It's not in the nusach. You don't farewell mitzvahs. Like you've internalized it. Now it's with you forever. So the Chabad meaning is that at the end, in the afternoon of Erev Shmini Atzeres, to eat something small in the sukkah as a last time to eat in the sukkah, we don't say goodbye.
you say Lashon Haba b'Yerushalayim?
That you can always say. It doesn't matter.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Based on all of this, why is it that women don't have the mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah?
Well, anytime a mitzvah means that you need to be told to do it, an obligation.
Right.
Without a mitzvah means that you can do it on a high level, possibly. Like you can do it, but you don't need the physical enactment of it. Here, early in the maamar, last week we saw that every mitzvah has its literal explanation, and then it has its avodah. The literal explanation of a mitzvah applies to certain people, certain times, certain places.
I see.
The avodah of a mitzvah applies to all people, all times, and all places. So, just like today, we have no obligation to sit in the sukkah.
Right.
You don't have to sit in the sukkah today, but you do. You have to sit in the sukkah today.
Right.
Because the sukkah is a munah, and sitting in the sukkah is
Right.
internalizing a munah, so of course you do. So you have to. So it's the same thing. The avodah applies to everyone. The physical mitzvah of it, some people need at certain times
see.
to have
Right.
an enactment of this mitzvah,
I understand.
a physical playing out of the mitzvah. Others don't need it.
I see. Thank you.
Rabbi Moshe says about Shemini Atzeres that the rest of the sukkahs, like Hashem was busy with all the nations and everything, every day, and then on Shemini Atzeres is the day that Hashem really wants to be with the Yidden,
Yeah.
so it doesn't want to. So it does make sense. That's really, you starting a new year, just being with Hashem.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like individually. You know.
Correct. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's what the last two lines of this paragraph say. That the eighth day, on the one hand, is that which is beyond. That's what Shmini means. But Shim calls a maamar b'yom hashmini atzeres tiyeh lachem. But what does it say? On the eighth day, you will have this atzeres, which means that even the eighth thing you will have. That you alone will be able to experience this. No one else can have this. This is not something that can be experienced by anybody else, but you can actually experience this eighth level. Which, like we said before, that's the unique level of emunah that the Jewish people experience after Matan Torah. That emunah that is beyond. It's not emunah that Hashem exists. It's emunah that only Hashem exists. Nothing else exists. That's the higher level of emunah that is unique to us, and that's tiyeh lachem. You can have it. The shmini you can actually have.
What's your Nisarim?
Strangers, others, and not with you. Okay.
Can you explain that again? Sorry.
So the last thing is saying that even though the last level, the shmini, means the shomer hekef, that which is beyond the shalshos, beyond the system. 7 is what's internalized. 8 is what's beyond being internalized. But even about that it says, Yom HaShmini atzeres tiyeh lachem. On the 8th day you will have this absorption. You actually do get the 8th day as well. It becomes yours. Even though it's beyond, it's a light beyond, but you get that too. So you started with the munah, then you absorb that in the munah, and then you're given the higher level, which is even beyond what you've absorbed already.
And then you absorb that?
And then you absorb that, and then you go higher. It keeps going. Yeah.
So if you're putting in all this avodah, whether you're feeling all of this or you're not feeling it, it's still happening at some level.
Yeah.
It's not about feeling.
Yeah, but in avodah, see, that's the difference. In avodah, you do have to. There's stuff you have to work on.
No, I understand.
But yeah, the system you're in the system, so
Right.
it works. But the more in avodah, the more aware of it, the more
Well,
it
of
impacts
course, then, of course. But it's working, you're basically saying that it's working anyway.
you. Yeah. You woke up, you said modani, you daven, you did your thing. But yeah.
And what's the Simchas Torah that comes after that?
It's a different maamar.
So this is all Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Shmini Atzeret.
Sukkah and
And
Shmini
the
Atzeres.
Sukkah Shmini Atzeres, and then Simchat Torah is not something else.
But Simchat Torah is not in the Torah. In the Torah, the system is build a sukkah, sit in a sukkah, have Shmini Atzeres. Simchat Torah is a minig, different thing.
What's the lulav and etrog then?
That's
comes
next.
In this?
That's next.
Okay.
And what does Atzeres mean again?
To absorb,
To absorb.
to stop. Literally means to stop,
Okay.
to not do work, stop.
Uh-huh.
But to hold, it also means to hold back, to become inward, to hold in. Hold in the emunah that is beyond, to actually hold it in. So Shmini Atzeres. On the 8th day, you get another layer on top. So let's get into hay a little bit. The Zehu Gama Shaykhis, the Ntilas Daled Minim L'Sukkah. This is also the connection of the 4 species, the Daled Minim to the Sukkah. Ukanal, Shemitzvahs Ntilas Daled Minim B'Sukkah, Hi Mitzvah Min HaMuvcha. We mentioned earlier that the best way to do the mitzvah of benching the lulav is in the Sukkah itself. You can do it anywhere, but it's better to do it in the Sukkah. Because the real taking it into Pnimius happens by taking the 4 species. So he said that sitting in the sukkah is already step 2. The first step is building the sukkah. You've got a sukkah, which means emunah. Sitting in the sukkah means now you have to take the emunah and dwell in it, allow it to sink in, internalize the emunah that should become a saga. That's done through sitting in the sukkah, but it's done even more. It's taken even deeper through taking the daled minim in the sukkah. Why? This will be understood by what's explained in the Siddur of the Alter Rebbe and also in the maamar of the Rebbe Marash. All 4 species represent the idea of unity, achdus. The belulav ksiv kapos tamarim, v'dosh razal shetzarich lis kafos, shekol ha'alim im hayois shebe'etzem hem nifradim ze mezeh, tzrichim liyos devukim ba'achuzim ze bezeh ki'ilu hem echad. That the lulav is described in the Torah as kapos tamarim, which means branches of date palm. But the word branches, kapos, also means kafus, which means that they have to be tightly hugging. Which means that the leaves of the lulav, even though they're separate, each leaf is separate, but they hug together as one. And that's why the lulav is not like a branch on a palm tree that the leaves are all separate. The lulav is at the stage where the leaves are all hugging together as one. Even though they're separate entities, they're hugging together as one. V'gam kol all kofel base. In fact, every leaf is really split into 2. Hainu, the base alim shebay mischabrim is achtim la'ale echad. Meaning, 2 leaves become one. Right down through them to the middle, they're all joined. Each leaf is joined at the bottom. So they're 2 leaves, but they're united as one. They haven't split apart. A split lulav is not kosher. It has to be united. So, and that's all learnt out from the word in the Torah that the lulav is described as kapos tamarim. Kapos can also be translated as hugging together. So the lulav represents unity, that even though there's 2 leaves, they hug together as one. V'cheinu badasim. The same applies to the hadassim, the myrtle branch. Shenikra anaf eitz oves. It's called a branch of a tree that grows together. Oves dafka tlosa b'chad kina. And the word oves is understood as that the leaves grow out. There's 3 leaves that grow out of one point. So if you look at the hadassim, the way it grows is that the leaves don't grow in separate parts of the stem, but there's 3 leaves coming out of one point. So again, it's unity. There's 3 of them, but they're all coming out of one point. There's a sense of oneness, of unity in the branch itself. So too, the willows always grow in bunches. There's no such thing as one willow tree anywhere. You never see such a thing. There's always a bunch of willow trees. They grow together as a community. And certainly the esrog represents unity, because the esrog is the one fruit that stays and grows throughout the entire year. Stays on the tree and grows through the entire year. Not only does the esrog tolerate the 4 seasons of the year, cold and heat and whatever it is, It actually grows from all of them. Most fruits have a season where they grow, and then there's an off season where they don't grow from. If you leave it on the tree, it'll just rot. The esrog grows from all 4 seasons. So it unites time. The various times of the year are all, they contribute to the esrog. The esrog lives from all of them. In fact, in fact, an esrog really grows completely after 3 years. You have to leave an esrog for 3 years. This is why they're expensive. That if it's left for 3 years, then it grows completely. It's not the only reason. That means that the esrog for 3 years stays on the tree. It grows from all 4 seasons 3 times, and we know 3 in Torah means chazaka. Like it's not just like it happened to grow. It over 3 years it grows through all the seasons. So that's a real sense of unity in time. So all of the 4 species represent unity. So so that's why bringing the makif, the surrounding light of Sukkah, into pnimius, into internalized, is mainly done through the lulav. Because the idea of the oneness of the 4 species represents the power of das, knowledge, which we said earlier, that the Arizal says that the taking of the lulav is drawing down into das. If you recall, at the very beginning of the maamar, what does it mean? Like in a person, that somebody who has broad das is able to tolerate that which opposes them. How are you able to hear an opinion that's different to yours and not fly off the handle? Only if you have broad das. If you're narrow-minded, so then anything you hear that you disagree with, you jump at. You can't handle it. If you're broad-minded, so then you can hear somebody else's opinion. You don't agree with it, but interesting. You can think about that. You don't have to react. You don't have to jump. You can appreciate that there's an opinion that doesn't agree with me, and it has validity. That's breadth of das. When you have das, you can handle your opposite. When you don't have das, you can't handle that which doesn't agree with you. So you immediately have to react to it and disagree. So the 4 species that all represent unity. There's 2 leaves on the lulav, but they hug together. There's 3 leaves growing out of the adasim, but they're all on one level. The haravas grow in bunches. It doesn't have to by itself. It can grow with other haravas branches. And the esrog doesn't only have one season it grows from, but all seasons of the year it can grow from. It can handle this one and that one. All of them represent the power of das. Das is the power to have many opinions and appreciate each one. That's okay. We can be united. We're not contradictory. Particularly considering that the oneness of the 4 species is not, and particularly the esrog, is not just that they tolerate difference, but they grow and become one entity through the differences. That the esrog grows from the different seasons. That the lulav is defined by having 2 leaves but that hug together, or 3 leaves on the hadassim. Shazemor al ribu hadas. So that shows that there's a huge broadness of das there. That doesn't just tolerate, but includes and incorporates the other opinion to become one. So how else can you incorporate, can you internalize emunah into and it become a part of your pnimius, into hasaga, than through the daled minim? Ki das inyan pnimius, because das is what pnimius is. To internalize something, you need das. Das is that which takes something and makes it personal, makes it within you. As in Tanya it explains that das supersedes Chachma and Bina. Chachma and Bina are very powerful intellectual faculties, but das is the one that makes it real, that makes it internalized. And so if you want to internalize that which is beyond, it's only through das. Das is the key to it sinking in. And where do we see the power of das? In the Daled Minim. Because the Daled Minim are multiplicity that become a unity. How can you unite multiplicity? Only through das, through the breadth of das.
How are you defining das? Just simply?
As the intellectual faculty of internalization.
That ability.
The ability to internalize an idea, to take it in. Not just to theorize an idea, but to internalize an idea. That's what das is. And so the power of das has two aspects to it. It has the power to internalize. It also has the power to hear another opinion. Because das is not so much about my mind asserting itself, it's about absorbing. And when you're in an absorbing state, you can hear, you can listen. You don't have to speak, you can listen. So if you want to internalize emunah, it's through das, which is what the Daled Minim are about.
And what does the esrog represent again?
Well, the unity of the esrog is that it unites all the 4 seasons. It grows from all 4 seasons. It doesn't have a time that is its time. It can take all the times, all the contradictory times it can handle, which is another expression of das, the ability to tolerate opposites. So the ability to absorb emunah is also a das thing, because it means that I'm not just asserting myself, but I'm open to that which is outside of me, beyond me.
So it goes back to modernity. Submission of, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So the Hasaga is from through das, but it starts from Chachma Bina. I can't just go through das without Chachma Bina.
Right. But just Chachma Bina without das is not internalized.
That's right. So it has to have
To internalize
that
it has
process.
to be das.
Yeah.
So because sitting in the sukkah is the experience of internalization, so therefore you need to bench lulav in the sukkah, which means that you have to bring the power of das into the sukkah, which is your emunah state, and with das you can internalize the emunah.
The emunah that you have already, you started
You
from
built a sukkah,
yes, that's
is
your
emunah.
That's right.
Now you have to enter and sit in the sukkah, which means to internalize the emunah of the sukkah.
That's true das.
And how do you do that?
Through the Daled Minim.
By bringing the Daled Minim, which means by introducing the power of das. Das is the power of not asserting your mind and your way of thinking, but opening yourself to other ways of thinking, including the infinite, which then becomes internalized, and then you need Shmina Atzeres. Once you've internalized it for 7 days, it's come all the way into the 7 emotions, now you're ready for a higher level of emunah that transcends. There's something to think about.
Rabbi, was that idea of emunah, if that's